Hello, people. Hello. This is Los at the Edit W Sports Show, where we give you NBA games, NFL games, Major League Baseball games, college football, college basketball, MMA, and boxing. We give you special interviews, people. Yes, we do. We interview Chicago legends, Chicago coaches, NFL players, current, current and former, NBA, current and former. We give you the interviews, people. Today it is my privilege. My privilege. We have the great Chicago champion in high school at Mount Carmel, a great player at Nebraska, a former NFL player at on the Buffalo Bills and the Carolina Panthers. It is my pleasure to welcome Nate Turner.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's start with, how did you get into playing football? Did you play at like a grammar school? Did they have a feeder program? How did you get introduced to the game of football?
Here in Chicago on the southeast side, Avalon Park, right on 83rd and Avalon, they had a tackle football team, but there were weight limits. So I was always a big kid, so I would have to play guard or center or defensive line. And I knew I'm way too athletic for that, so I just didn't play. I played baseball instead. So, but other than that, I mean, playing in the park, when kids played in the park, you know what I mean? Go to Avalon Park and play. Go to play in front of the church on Stony Island, playing at, the old Stony Island Park. Now it's Jesse Owens Park, but it's going back now. But
you play guard?
No, I wouldn't play guard.
Okay.
They had like the 130-pound weight limit.
So you were pretty husky back then.
I was a big kid, yeah.
So you just was blessed with speed.
Yeah, I would say that. I was lucky.
You was one of them kids that a person didn't want to tackle back then. Like
I was a fat kid that could run.
Okay.
It's a reality of it. But kids grow different. Everybody grows in a different time. And everybody develops at different time frames. You know what I mean? That's why you can't. That's why you don't have young kids playing against old kids. That's why in the NFL you don't see any high school kids going straight to the NFL.
Because they're not ready.
They're not ready physically
to play against grown men.
Right.
That reminds me, I remember two kids I remember playing. I played my version of tackle football. I remember he played it with you at Mount Carmel, DeMar
White.
He was, man, in grammar school, he was fast and he was tough to bring down.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about, do you remember DeMar at Mount Carmel?
Yeah, DeMar's a really good high school running back, man. He scored a bunch of touchdowns, and he played in that the Veer offense at Mount Carmel under Frank Linton, and he was a prototypical Veer offense running back. He was rock solid.
What about another guy? He played in the NBA, Marlon Maxey. Oh man,
Marlon and I played Little League together at Southside Little League.
Man, we used to play football. I remember we call him Maxey. And you'll just see him come,
right?
And you like, oh, I'm gonna have to try to tackle him today, or
right.
Get hit by him today.
When going back to playing T-ball, you hit the ball off the tee. The first inning was pitching, and Marlon he was like 6 foot when he was little, so he would let the ball go. It was like he was standing on top of you when he let the ball go. But yeah, it was scary betting against him as a little kid because he was so long and tall. He ended up having a great, basketball career and played overseas for a long time.
So going back to, you playing playing just basically saying like football. How did you guys organize did you actually have 11 on 11?
Yeah, we'd have games. We'd have
so who organized this?
Just everybody on the block. Everybody on the block. We play, my side of Stony Island against the other side of Stony Island, the east side versus the west side of Stony. We play different blocks, and then we put together an all-star team to go across Stony Island.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how were the games like refereed? Or you like if it's a pass,
it was. I mean,
you gotta
it
call
was
your.
just.
Is it like in the streets playing
It
basketball?
was
You
basically
call your.
no blood, no foul. Right. It's basically that's how it was.
Did any before we discuss how somebody discovered you from that? So was it kids that you played with or against that end up becoming great high school players, college players, or professional players?
You know what? There's a bunch of kids that came through. They came through Southside Little League program. I mean, that I played with. Me, Howard Griffith. He played for. He got a 2-ball ring with Denver.
Denver. Wow.
He played, touchdown leader in Illinois.
So he plays.
He played baseball with us. Yeah,
he played the Sandlot football too.
No, I don't remember playing Sandlot football. I remember playing baseball, and like Marlon Maxey played with us. Who else was there? He played for Minnesota basketball.
Walter Bond.
Walter Bond.
Now, what about in terms of the kids that you can remember actually playing with or against that played football? Most of them didn't go on to play high school.
I mean, a lot of guys. I mean, John Bentley. John Bentley was with me at Mount Carmel. He was on the other side. He ended up having a nice career in Minnesota. I mean, it was that was back in the day where you played every sport. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It wasn't like I'm a football player. Like my youngest boy now, he's a football player. He's a football player. That's it. That's all he does. And as the season went, we went.
Got it.
So if it was baseball, we playing baseball.
So time was different.
Yeah, if it was basketball, it's basketball. And then in the summertime, we played 16 in softball, playing piggy and pickup games and all that stuff. So
let's touch on the point where back in the day you came up with you played multiple sports and your youngest son just concentrates on football. Do you think that is to an advantage of a kid to concentrate on one sport, or do you think it's better for kids to play multiple sports at a young age?
It depends on the kid. I mean, sometimes you hear people say we need kids to play multiple sports because of the level of competition and competing. But football, if my son's a quarterback, so he has his skill set and he hones his craft as it goes. You know what I mean? Just so if I had played quarterback or even a receiver, you got a chance to hone your skills a lot longer than everybody else, and that's what's coming down to particular specialty guys now.
So let's go to how did you get to Mount Carmel? By playing street ball. So,
well, we used to play back and forth with East Side of Stone. Now I live on the east side. I went to St. Felicitas, which is on the west side of Stony. So we used to play against those kids, Lance Bonner, all those kids from the other side of Stony, who ended up being one of my best friends. So his father is L.T. Bonner. L.T. Bonner is the referee. He's the first referee with the instant replay back in USFL and all. He did all that stuff. Big 10 games.
Wow.
So he
at the time was he reffing USFL and Big 10 at the time? Was he doing more local?
That was USFL.
Wow.
So he was like, I got this coach Bars coming over to meet at another friend of. He's like, Nate, you should play football, man. And Lance was like, man, you the best out of all of us. Why don't you play? I was like, all right, well, let's see how it goes. And I went over there, and then that's it.
And so give me a replay so the audience could picture at when you were at the coach's house. How did do you remember how the conversation went?
Yeah, so LT is he was a braggadocious guy, you know what I mean? So he would talk about his son and how great an athlete his son was, right?
Right.
So Coach Bars, so we walk into the house and Coach Bars looks at us all and he goes, "You must be Lance." And then the rest is history.
Because Lance was the one that bragged a lot. Yeah. So he thought you would. Right. Wow. Right. So from there, what did the coach, how did they convince you to be like, Mount Carmel's your place?
You know what? I think that it just kind of happened. You know what I mean? That's the time when, stuff was starting to get bad in the streets. You know what I mean? And my parents, my father's an electrician, my mom, worked at the home and, it was basically took care of the house.
Okay.
So you end up, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, there's not, the only difference, I believe, between Catholic school and public school is that people go to Catholic school to pay for the protection.
Nate, I went to De La Salle also.
You pay for the protection. And I get it. I get it. But academically, I don't think it's much difference.
Right. You just
actually, you get more resources in public school.
And in the Catholic school, if you don't do as told, they actually get your money. You don't get it reimbursed.
Right.
And you get kicked out of the school.
And you got instant parental involvement because there's money involved.
Great point. That's how it works.
Because in public schools, I mean, it's not a lot of parental involvement like it should be. You go to a Catholic school and everybody's involved because they vested.
Nate, I'm a former teacher. You telling that's the truth. And at the Catholic school, it seems like that they can get away with more disciplining the children opposed to the public school, especially nowadays.
No doubt.
Everything the teacher did is something wrong or it's a lawsuit.
Right. And with the Catholic schools, it's a different situation, man, completely, because the parents are sending you there for the discipline. So therefore, any discipline you get there, they're not going to be upset about, at least for the most part.
So you went to Mount Carmel 1984 to 1987.
Mm-hmm.
Before you got to Mount Carmel, give me breakdown. I know Mount Carmel is a powerhouse in the Catholic League as well as the state of Illinois. The great Frank Linty. Give me a breakdown before you got to Mount Carmel. Was it a powerhouse already, or did you guys?
Yeah, no, it was a power. I mean, it's always been a powerhouse just because of the sheer numbers and the disciplined kids that have come out of the school. So it's always been, a tough school, a great athletic school, with a bunch of history.
So break down when you get to Mount Carmel as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
How do they explain? Because Mount Carmel, everybody knows in Chicago and throughout the country, Mount Carmel's name is known.
Right.
Donovan McNabb, Nate Turner, Chris Calloway. Am I missing any other people offhand?
Frank Cornish.
Frank Cornish.
Simeon Rice.
I forgot Simeon. So when you come through the door as a freshman, do the seniors explain to you what's expected from the freshmen? Is it the coaches? What makes the Mount Carmel? Because I believe in any tradition, when in belief, it's a culture.
Right. No,
so
100%.
how is this culture introduced to you as a freshman coming into Mount Carmel?
It's introduced as you walk in the door, you know what it is, because you know what it is when you go there. You know in the door what's expected of you when you go there. And you have to, you want to play hard, you want to learn and be the best player you can be. And you know that. That's just that's the reason you went. You know what I mean? It's not like, a school where you're trying to rebuild tradition and trying to build a culture. The culture was already there. And it's just, you kind of plug and play, and then you have great players and you have decent players and everybody plays together, and it's just like a machine.
It's a machine.
They win.
So as a freshman, did you play on a freshman team, or did you play a freshman sophomore?
I played on the freshman team as a freshman because that was my first year playing football.
So how did your freshman team do?
I think we went 6-3. I think we lost a couple games.
So let's break down. That's a key point you brought up. My first time wearing equipment.
Right.
To the people watching, give that experience of actually putting equipment on opposed to how you played in the park. Did you learn how to tackle different?
You first of all, you're protected so you can be more relentless and more free with throwing your body around. And then secondly, you never put on equipment before, so it's a whole learning process of this is this is that. Then that's going back to when you had to wear a cup. Like, I don't even wear cups no more, but we used to have to wear a cup. Like,
I know that was pretty uncomfortable.
Right. That's why they don't wear them no more. But I remember at the beginning we wore those, and I just remember the equipment being not up to par. At the time, it was up to par, but looking back, it was headache helmets.
And Mount Carmel had the best
stuff.
So the public lead and some
right.
of the
if we had garbage, everybody else had real garbage.
So, as a freshman, were you considered one of the best freshmen on the team?
Yeah, towards the end of the season, yes.
They had you playing receiver.
I played wide receiver, yeah.
So when did you start realizing, man, I'm pretty good at this? Was you had not realized this as a freshman?
Well, track season, I was the hurdler, and then I ended up doing extremely well as a freshman. So I was like, everybody's like, oh man, Nate's so fast. And then I started getting bigger. And the bigger I got, I might have been, as a sophomore, I might have been 198, 196.
Wow.
So football became easier. It became easier because nobody wanted that smoke. You know what I mean? Even if I didn't realize I could run over everybody, nobody wanted to tackle me anyway.
So you start realizing it.
Right. You realize, you're like, oh, okay, I'm different. And, it's just a natural realization of God touches some people. That's what happens.
So let's go back to you becoming running track. Mm-hmm. How did that, from playing football as a freshman, did the track coach come get you?
No. Coach Sesniak, the freshman coach of Mount Carmel, told me, so you got long legs, you should be a hurdler. I was like, all right. It was that simple.
So you just said, all right.
All right.
So he break down.
Didn't have a coach. Didn't have a hurdling coach. Learned how to hurdle on my own.
So it was just a track team, but you had to learn how to.
I mean, all the other stuff, like, pass the baton and working in the blocks and all that stuff and the relays, that was taught to me. But as far as hurdling, I was basically on my own.
So I'm pretty sure you failed a couple times.
Oh yeah, a lot.
So when did you so as a freshman, how did you do in state competition? And so did you run 100-meter hurdles, 200?
110-meter high hurdles.
So how did you do at the time when you competing, I'm assuming, against freshmen?
Yeah, against freshmen and sophomores. I was doing well. But like my sophomore year, everything changed. My whole life changed. You know what I mean?
Your sophomore year.
Yeah, everything changed because that summer I went home, when I came back, I was different. You know what I mean? That testosterone dropped and I was a different person.
You grew physically. You were becoming more like. Mm-hmm. So did you realize this the way you were feeling, or when you got on the football field, you realized, man, I'm bigger, stronger, faster?
It's just something you realize, just messing around and playing around with people, and man, you hurt. You know what I mean? Just people just like, man, Nate, what the hell? You just like one day you wake up with this superhuman strength. It's hard to explain, man. It's like it really happens like that. You wake up one morning like, damn, I feel different.
And I'm sure the coaches noticed.
Oh yeah.
So the sophomore year, they immediately, you were the go-to man on the sophomore team.
Off the top, right? Off the top.
Do you think you could have played varsity as a sophomore?
300%.
But the coach, you guys were so loaded.
Yeah,
it was
Chris Callaway, wide receiver, Melvin Johnson. He had some players, a wide receiver. So he just let me marinate another year.
So how did the team do sophomore year?
We undefeated. But it was, that shit was easy. Sophomore, you know what I mean? I mean, honestly, it was just really easy.
Because you really should have been on varsity, so it was like you was just totally dominating.
Probably should have been in college. Honestly. But yeah, definitely not on frost off. You know what I mean? It wasn't.
Wow.
It wasn't. It was really easy.
So in the sophomore year, what does Frank Lindsay come to you and say you're gonna be my starting receiver? When did he realize that you were gonna be the starting receiver?
Chris was still there, so it was me and Chris Callaway.
So going into junior year, did you have to fight for the job, or
no.
It was
two of us, so it was Chris on one side, me on the other.
So it wasn't competition from like the seniors and
not for me. I mean, it's probably, given the situation and given what was bestowed on me, no, I had no problems. There was no having to fight anybody off or having to battle with somebody for playing time.
So junior, and let's start with junior year. Junior year, you guys win the prep ball against Lane Tech. Describe how junior year went. Give the people a narrative.
Junior year went all right. Coach Lindsey was trying to get Chris the ball a little bit. Because Chris was a senior, and I get it. That's the politics of the game. I get it. You wait your turn and do what you got to do. And I waited my turn, and it worked out. You know what I mean? It worked out for me. But I really didn't. I was decent junior year.
So describe you playing with Chris Callaway, two professional receivers on the same high school team.
Yeah.
So was this just a all-out air arsenal, or the way?
Absolutely not.
Because you guys are a traditional running team,
and that's just the way Coach Frank is. He wasn't going. If it was me, would I do it? Yeah, I threw the ball all over the place. But actually, I don't think he really had me. Our quarterback was Mike Danko. He's kind of short, kind of slow, but he made up for it by being small.
So let's talk about you in today's high school. Would you say it's more passing or more running? Depends on a particular high school.
It depends on where it is. Some people, that's their thing. Like Cary Grove, they run the ball. We get in the state. Then you got like my son and Phillips. They throw the ball. They do both. They do both.
Put yourself back into in today's day with yourself, Chris Callaway. Was your quarterback, in your opinion, a top-notch quarterback that could have really got you the ball in a spread-out offense?
Nope.
Okay. But if you had the correct quarterback in a system that was built on passing the ball, how great are the numbers? Like the numbers, I saw East St. Louis play live a couple times.
Right.
They have an all-out aerial attack. The quarterback, this is like actually watching college kids play high school.
Right.
That's the type of talent that you and Nate were, I'm assuming.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, better than that. But I don't know, man. It just depends on what you got at quarterback, and that drives the boat. You know what I mean? If I'd had my oldest boy and my youngest boy, we put up 5,000 yards. You know what I mean? With me and Chris Callaway. But it didn't work out that way. And actually, the kids, like quarterbacks at that point in time, they were really running the ball back in the day like that. So it was kind of like my part of the game as far as returning kicks and punts and kickoffs and
you ran kicks and punts too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you used to take them to the house?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I return kicks in the league. I'm the biggest kickoff return man week in, week out ever in the NFL.
Wow. We're gonna discuss the NFL later. Yeah. And to the people watching,
yeah.
We also gonna have a part two, because like Nate's talking about, we want to discuss high school football. What's going on today? We're going to have that in part two because he brought up his sons, and we want to talk about the state of football, particularly in the state of Illinois, the city of Chicago. What he has a vision of what we can do to improve Chicagoland football. We're going to talk about that in part two of the interview. Let's talk about senior year. You play Wheaton North in a state championship. You guys lose that.
I had chicken pox.
But
and we had 3 guys with the mumps. So we lost the game, but in my mind, we didn't lose the game. You know what I mean? Because Wheaton North didn't have an answer for me. They just didn't have an answer.
So the game is
sick, right?
The game is on a Saturday or a Friday?
It's on a Saturday. So
when do you discover that you got chicken pox?
After the semifinal game.
So it was like a week, right after the game.
Right after the game.
So tell me how this goes.
So I'm trying to play in this game, man. So my mom goes to the Jamaican herb store on Stony Island.
Okay.
On the west side of Stony Island, about 84th, 85th Street. They still up there. It's like a vitamin store. And then she gave me this tea because I had all the chicken pox. They had to be They had to go all the way through that process.
Got it.
Otherwise, I won't be able to play because I'd still be contagious. So I drink the tea for 2 days and then go to the doctor, then drink the tea another day. Went to the doctor. He told me I could play. So I didn't even practice that week, and I lost like 15 pounds going into the game, and then I was able to play, but my parents had to drive me down to the game. I couldn't ride on the bus with the kids.
And you was weak.
Yeah, it wasn't no place close to it.
So give me your Frank Lenny when he realizes that his star receivers got chicken pox.
You got to replace me. It's next man up. That's just the way it is. You know what I mean? Sometimes it works out for you, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes somebody goes down, and then you realize that the guy that went down isn't even the guy you thought he was. It's the guy behind him. You know what I mean? Like, so you never know. I mean, it worked out the way it worked out, and we lost the game.
So before we go to your college career, let's get the people some of your accolades. All-American senior year. Ranked number 1 USA Today. Parade All-American. Describe the feeling from a kid that grew up playing football, game he loves at Avalon Park, to now being one of the best kids in America. How does this, to the kids watching, how does this feel? And maybe share some information with the kids as an example how somebody could be the next Nate Turner, the next Chris Callaway, etc.
Well, the thing is that you start to put in so much work that you really don't have time to smell the roses. Everything starts happening so fast. Just like one thing rolls into the next, toe rolls into the next. And then next thing you know, oh man, you're All-American. Like, oh shit. But now you got to get ready. So there's no time to really enjoy, because now, oh shit, okay, All-American. Now you got to start getting ready to back all that shit up. You know what I mean?
So how does from a young, because we want to reach as many of the young men as possible.
Right.
Let's talk about once the popularity happens, let's talk about how the girls come from everywhere, different people. As the young people today call it clout. Right. It wasn't social media back then. Right. So how does that?
It was hanging out at Wendy's.
So how does this change that now Nate is All-American? Just give like how your peers treated you.
Well, things change because everybody, once your name is in the paper a bunch of times, everybody's thoughts about you change, and then people's angles change. Where someone might have been your friend at one point, and now they're trying to get over on you on some other shit, or trying to weasel their way in, or try to ride your coattails through the storm. And that's the weird part about it. You know what I mean? As a kid, my advice would be just enjoy the game and work your ass off. Work like a slave. Work, give the game everything you got, and then you can't feel bad about anything because you can say, you know what, I gave it all I got. If you don't, then you'll be 35, 40 years old talking about, oh, man, I should have did this, and that's no way to live. So just give the game everything you got.
That's another thing, people, we're going to touch on in part 2 about helping Chicago football, and also because Nate's been through being a young man, so I think it will help to let youngsters know what you might go through. Yeah. So they actually have guidance, because if you don't have guidance as a young man, you could make mistakes. 100%. Per se, have a liquor bottle in the car, or hanging around people with a gun in the car, where now your scholarship is ruined, and now your life has changed. We're going to talk about that, people, in part 2. Let's talk about Nebraska. Nebraska Cornhuskers. You take a trip. Back then, they were the Big 8.
Right.
What made you... First of all, let's talk about the recruiting.
Right.
So you at Mount Carmel, did you let your parents handle I know letters are coming from everywhere. Right. Give us some of the college offers you got.
Pick one.
Nebraska, how many letters did you have approximately?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Thousands, maybe.
Wow.
I got scholarship. I had a scholarship offer from every school,
So walk us.
and then every school at first, and then some schools backed off because they knew they didn't have a chance. You know what I mean? So it got to the point it's just the big schools. You know what I mean? So I remember North Carolina was, you know, they were flirting around me, Auburn, and then all of a sudden when Miami got in the mix, and
you should have went to my
and then UCLA got in the mix, and USC got in the mix, and then you see people drop off. You know what I'm saying? Because they know they don't have a chance.
So you still a young man on the way to college. How so? Do your parents handle this to help you? So give me I'm. How do the parents talk to their son? Like, man, how am I going to go through hundreds and thousands of offers? Like,
well, the thing is that, I mean, the lucky thing, like my boys had it different because I hadn't been through it. My parents they had no idea what the hell was going on. It was just these white people showing up in the house. You know what I mean?
So they literally coming to your house.
Yeah. At one point in time, I had Tom Osborne was in the house. Joe Paterno was sitting outside, and
at the same time.
In the same time,
People, these are legendary Hall of Fame coaches.
And
Osborne from Nebraska,
who coached
Paterno, Penn State.
Who coached in Miami back then?
At the U?
Yeah.
1990 what?
No, I said 80s. In
the 80s. Jimmy Johnson.
No, before Jimmy Johnson.
Before Jimmy Johnson was Howard Schellenberger.
Howard Schellenberger. He was in Louisville.
Yeah.
He was
Howard Schellenberger.
It was Tom Osborne, Joe Paterno, and Howard Schellenberger. And my mom loved Howard Schellenberger.
Why you didn't go to the U?
He was in Louisville.
It's only one U, Nate. No. The U.
Well, you know what? This is my thing. I'm pretty much a realist. And I'm really not stupid. And you put girls in bikinis on campus, odds are I'm a flunk. For the same reason, I didn't even visit UCLA.
You knew better.
I knew better.
So I'm gonna go somewhere.
It's the recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for disaster.
And you figure I go in a cold climate, be disciplined, just focus on football.
So I get my degree.
Very smart decision. So you got Osborne at the house, Paterno, Schellenberger, all these people coming. So
John Robinson,
the USC. So give me.
Bo Schembechler.
You know I love Michigan too. Hail to the victors, people. Hail to the victors. We'll win the Big Ten championship Saturday.
I had a problem with Bo Schembechler. So Coach Linty, Bo Schembechler and Coach Linty were tight.
Wow.
So he was talking about, so I said, no, I want to go into business. And he was like, well, we have a sports business program. I'm like, no, I didn't say sports business.
I want to go into business.
And he kept trying to push this sports business, so I walked out.
In other words, you felt he was insulting your intelligence.
Coach Frank was pissed. But I was like, well, it's only 4,000 more schools. I want to go to Michigan.
Hey, I agree.
Right.
So give me what made you choose Nebraska? Because you heard Osborne, you heard Paterno.
Well, the reality. And it's different nowadays because kids get money. Okay? Kids get money now.
They get money?
Now. So it would be illegal for us to get money. But if you were to illegally get some money, that's where I would have got the most money from. So therefore, and plus Nebraska's it mimicked, Mount Carmel, football scheme-wise. So it was, and I think I was kind of scared to go into a situation. I was just cleaning up some stuff at the house and going through these drawers, and I found like his cards from Houston, University of Houston. He was like, come catch 100 passes. And I was like, shit, that's kind of scary, man. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm not really, you know what I mean? I'm a tough ass Southside Chicago receiver. I'm not one of them pretty UCLA boys just dancing around. So I figured I'd go someplace that I can get my hands dirty.
So at this time, you are a parade all-American, one of the best players in the country. Did you have the wherewithal at this time to say, I need to go to a team that has a passing attack to possibly get me in the NFL, opposed to Osborne them, you guys ran the ball? Or you wasn't really thinking ahead to the NFL?
I thought ahead, but it was kind of scary, man. It was just, I couldn't, the offense in Nebraska at that point in time, I thought it fit what I do.
Your skill set.
Wing back. It's actual wing back. They call it wing back in Nebraska. I play wing back, so therefore it just seemed like a natural fit. So I wouldn't have to change much. It'd be like,
So our football fans are the football fans that is new football now. So like the wing back, do they have that now, or what? With the
not really.
That was more explained like the wing
H back. The tight end that moves around. The H-back is kind of like everything. It's like that's the guy that can do everything. I was even, at one point in time, I was even the emergency quarterback. You know what I mean? So that's usually the top athlete on the team. Odds are he's playing wing back or tailback back when I played.
So when you decide to go to Nebraska, give me the process. Do you sit down with your parents? Give me that conversation with your parents about, well, Nate, son, what school do you want to go to? So kids might understand the process.
Well, I would have went to Notre Dame. But when I was 11, I got in trouble and I blew up a mailbox. Long story. So anyway, it was a guy lived on the block. He worked for the state. He had these sticks he had these flares in the back of his truck. So they work at night. You get up in the day, you take the flares out the back of his truck, you run up and down the street with the flares.
Just being a kid, doing kid things. Right.
They had this one flare, had this long ass stem on it, light it, run it down Stony Island, play. They said, this is boring as shit. It's just, so we put it in the mailbox, right on 83rd and Stony Island. Walked away, kabloom! Blows it sky high.
And
it was a stick of dynamite.
I'm pretty sure you was with friends.
Yeah, I was with one friend.
So
and I ran home and changed clothes. Being the Chicago kid I am, I ran home and changed clothes. He ran home and his mother sent him back to the store to get cigarettes. So he got caught.
And he told on you.
He tripped. So
how does this conversation?
So that ended up leading to a bunch of funny stories. Well, for one,
give it to us. Let the people know.
For one, it's a federal offense. So I'm 11 years old with a federal offense that doesn't get expunged off your record till you turn 18. So I was getting recruited at 17. So I had a federal offense. Once somebody sees a federal offense, so Notre Dame was like, nope.
You can't come here.
Nope. And then my dad beat my ass.
I was going to ask you the story.
He told me, he said, man, check this out. The reason I'm beating your ass is not because you did it, because you did it with somebody. He said, if you can do something bad, do it by yourself. So the only person can tell on you is me.
Oh, man.
So that's pretty funny. So the Notre Dame shit was off the table. Because Tim Brown and Tony Rice, and all those guys, they were cool as hell. Chris ended up going there, Zorg.
So how many recruiting trips did you actually take?
I took 3. I was supposed to take 5. I canceled Michigan.
And Miami?
I didn't even get to that point in Miami. I went to Illinois, Michigan State, Nebraska. And I committed on my visit to Nebraska. And I took my mom because I told my mom, I said, I'm committing on this visit. So I took her with me. So
you going, let's say Illinois, you from Chicago, mm-hmm. Illinois State School. Mm-hmm. What made you not choose the Illini?
That was just too much like Chicago. Everybody was like Chicago. It's Howard Griffith. It's the same people. You know what I mean? You know everybody. You know what I mean? And you just wanted something different. Yeah. So you took your mom to Nebraska. Right. And you said, Mom, I think this is it. Yeah. Coach Charlie McBride, who went to Finger, he tells a story about how tough he thought it was going to be to get me to go to Nebraska because of, how great everybody thought I was, and everybody was, everybody was coming in the door. So my parents went to the back, or my mom went to the back to get something to drink, and I told Coach Nebraska, hey man, look, I'm coming to Nebraska. Just tell you, you don't have to even worry about it no more. Whatever happens right now. I mean, when I remember as a kid, running around, I wanted to be Doug DeBose. You know what I mean? We running in the backyard.
Nebraska got great history.
Right.
What's the running back in the 70s? I can't think of his name right now.
You're talking about wingback, Johnny Rogers?
Johnny Rogers.
Right. Johnny, our superstar. Doug DeBose, Mike Rozier. All those guys, man. And Dougie D. I'm friends with Dougie D today. That's the reason I wore number 22. Is because I used to want to wear 22 when he was wearing 22.
Let's discuss when you get to Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
You get to Nebraska. So is it the same thing like you told me, the culture, the tradition? It was you knew in the door that this is the culture.
Yeah, it's what you went there for. You know what it is. You know exactly what it is. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. Like some kids, like certain kids aren't what they say they are, aren't what they think they are. You know what I mean? That's just a fact. When I went to Nebraska, my job, when I walked in the door, I'm like, okay, I'm taking his spot. I'm taking his spot. This is my march up the depth chart. As a freshman, you put you on the bottom. I'm about to take. I'm gonna leapfrog all these fools by the time games start.
So you knew this as seeing this in practice?
Yeah, you see it in practice.
So
and Nebraska had a freshman team. That's how all along with this was. They had a freshman team.
So you leave Mount Carmel in the summer when you go to prom. Mm-hmm. So how did it work? Do you go right to Nebraska for the summer? Or do you still hang out with your friends?
Hung out a little bit.
So when you
a little bit, worked out, hung out.
And when you get to Nebraska, give me your first week at Nebraska. Get a people a visualization. You get to Nebraska.
Well, first it's the realization that you're on your own. There are no rules. Mom and dad, you're on your own. Nobody gonna wake you up to go to class. If you don't go, you just don't go.
I thought they have the program has people.
Eventually, once you get good enough, you have to be eligible. They make sure you get to class.
Oh, so freshman, you not even worth.
You just whatever. They just shake it. It's like they shake the shit and see what shakes out. That's what happens. You bring in some kids, you shake it, and be like, okay, here you go. Then the rest of them they toss out. That's just a real how the game is horrible like that.
So if you get a full ride scholarship, because a lot of people, it's a debate. Can you say you didn't do anything to get kicked off the team for behavior?
Right.
Can you get kicked off of college football scholarship because of performance?
No. But they can figure something out. They will figure something out. I had a kid who went to a school. I'm not gonna mention the school, but he had and I tell my boys all the time, when shit is too easy, it's something to it. You know what I mean? It's something to it. So this girl called him, and she was older and she was beautiful, and then he was all into it. She was like, "Yeah, I want you to videotape me." Yada yada yada. He videotapes her doing whatever, and then next thing you know, he gets a call from the coach. The next week says, "Hey, this girl's father has contacted us.
Oh.
And you have to either want you off the team or they're gonna press charges." So now as a kid, and you scared that you be like, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, and next thing you know, he quits the team. Guess what? They just got their scholarship back.
Wow.
People, it's a setup.
I'm going to point that out when we discuss part 2 about high school football recruiting. Right. We need to really talk about that.
100%.
Because we want the people to understand what really happens.
Right,
wow.
Right. It's a dog eat dog world. It's a dog eat dog world.
So let's continue. You get there and you say, I'm moving up the depth chart. Mm-hmm. I know that what makes you see this as a freshman? Is it the same thing like we talked about earlier with Mount Carmel, where you could just see I'm better than them?
You know what, man? God touches some people, man. I can't even explain it. I'm just bigger and faster and and more talented. You know what I mean? And willing to work and willing to do the dirty shit, willing to block and willing, that's the type of thing that keeps people. Shit, Chris Callaway didn't catch a lot of balls with the Giants or Pittsburgh, but he blocked his ass off. And you know what? He played 10 years in the league.
So to the youngsters, it's more than just catching the ball, blocking.
It's being a complete football player, being a complete, and then the more you can do is the more, like, kids. I don't want to run down on kickoffs. I don't want to be on punt team. Shit, without punt team and kickoff, I'm in the NFL 2 years.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So that's just a realization of being a complete football player and not having an ego. You'll enjoy the game.
So you're a 4-year starter at Nebraska.
Yeah.
When does it come the point where Tom Osborne sees this freshman, because Nebraska's a powerhouse.
Right.
So where do you get
first game?
So is this the offensive coordinator? Does Tom Osborne call you in the office? How does?
No, it just happens, man. It just Nate, we're gonna try to keep you in there, and we really enjoyed what you did last week. Then you're in.
Wow.
It was a room with a depth chart, and everybody has and they show it on some. You'll see some shows nowadays, and they'll show the depth chart.
They sure do.
Everybody has a little magnet with your name on it, and then you see it moving up, and then you always want to sneak in there and see where your name is and see what they're thinking. You know what I mean?
But this wasn't a surprise to you because you already visualized, I'm leapfrogging these guys.
Right.
So this wasn't a big surprise.
No.
So you're a 4-year starter, Big 8, 2-time champion. Your rival, of course, was Oklahoma at the time. Nebraska wasn't in the Big 10 back then. The Big 8 was Nebraska, Oklahoma, Colorado,
Iowa State, Kansas.
So let's discuss the Nebraska-Oklahoma rival. Because I'm a Michigan fan, so we have Michigan, Ohio State. I'm a University of Miami. We have the U in Florida State. Right. So tell me, I hear that Nebraska-Oklahoma was a hell of a rivalry.
It was a war.
Is it the same thing like when they come into Lincoln, you guys go into where Oklahoma plays?
Right. In Norman.
Norman. Is it just chaotic? People out tailgating, drink.
It's people drunk all over the place. It's just parties all over the place.
So put myself and the people of the mindset. You're a freshman. The first time let's talk about two things. You going on the road in a home game. When did you realize that this is different than, even though Mount Carmel, you played in big games. Mm-hmm. You played in front of big crowds because Mount Carmel is the powerhouse. Right. Give me what's going through your mind, racing through your heart when the first game you come out the Nebraska tunnel and you see all these people just fanatic.
Nebraska's crazy. The fans are crazy, and everybody wears red. So I just remember, you have to focus because there's so much red you can't focus. It's like that much red.
It's
like somebody poured paint on everything. And you're just like, you run out the tunnel like, oh my God. But it was like that every game.
Right.
In Nebraska. Oklahoma game, it was just over the top. Loud. When I say loud, I mean loud. But as far as the game, that's one thing it's hard for people to understand. When you playing it, you playing it.
It's like you playing the game.
You playing the game. You don't think about the crowd until something happens. You don't think about people in the crowd or faces or what people got on. It's just, okay, you're like, it's fucking red, everything calms down, then you start playing the game. And if something big happens and the crowd erupts, you feel that.
Break down how it feels in the tunnel. A lot of us, again, in college football, I love Michigan, I love Miami. Right. Give me the feeling of a kid being in a tunnel in Nebraska. You about to play Oklahoma, and basically this game is going to determine if you're going to play for a national championship, because really the loser's out.
Right.
How does it feel let us visualize the coach giving you the pep talk. You in there putting the pads on.
Right.
Are you listening to music? How, like, give us the feeling of the locker room in that moment.
Everybody had their little Walkman. People don't even know what Walkmans are nowadays, but you had your Walkman on with your little tape and had the shit that you recorded and you listening to your music. It's just such a, you work so hard to get to a point, and it's just the next step. You know what I mean? Standing in the tunnel is just the next step. It's hard to explain. It means a lot more to me now than it did then, if that makes sense. At that point in time, you're a machine. You just now it means more. Just all the stories mean more now. But back then, it was just, that was life. It was like getting up and eating breakfast. It's time to play Oklahoma.
So after you listen to the music, and who gives the call? It's time to come out the tunnel. That Osborne, yeah. And it's time to and you just roll out the tunnel.
You walk through, touch the horseshoe, and get on out there.
Is that one of the selling points they show you when you are recruited? This is how you come out the tunnel. Do they actually show you? Yeah, like, I hear that
they mention it, but you don't realize what it is until you're doing it.
Okay.
And then it means something to you. You know what I mean?
I hear like some stadiums will have kids, the recruits come and they'll make it like it's an actual game, but the crowd's not there.
Right. Yeah, but that's just the way recruiting is now. You know what I mean? Back in the day, recruiting was different. It wasn't as much fanfare. Was no social media. It was just, we really, you can feel that somebody really wants you. And that's where you want to be. You want to be where you want it. A lot of people go where they want to go, and it don't end up right.
All right. Describe me your first time. We've discussed playing at home. It's a different experience going to your rival, Oklahoma. Tell me
Colorado.
You think Colorado was worse? Colorado was a powerhouse then too.
Colorado was worse.
Boulder, Colorado, right?
Yeah, and then they run the Buffalo. They run the Buffalo out across right in front of you, and you don't realize how big a Buffalo is.
Is that Cordell Stewart was after you?
Yeah, he was after me. But yeah, that Buffalo is big, and when he runs by, you feel him run by, not because of the wind, because your feet, like the whole earth is moving.
So how does it work? We're going to discuss professional later. On the college level, you go play Colorado, you go to Oklahoma, you're on the road. Give me like the travel. So you get in town on, is it Thursday? Is it Friday?
No, it's usually Friday. You fly in on Friday. Then you go to the stadium and have a walkthrough practice. Just jog around the stadium a little bit. Then you go eat and go to the movies and then meetings. And then wake up in the morning and have depending on what time the game is. If it's a night game, then you got all day. So that's the worst because you're just sitting around watching football, being antsy all day. So
our typical young college kids disciplined enough to go to sleep at a certain time?
Not when you're in it like that. No.
So the coaches
not when you're playing on that high level. It's never easy to go to sleep. It's never easy.
Cause you amp.
Yeah, you ready to roll. You ready to go.
And so you you get the wake up call when you finally go to sleep. You get the wake up call and it's time to go to breakfast. Right. What happens after breakfast? You at Colorado, you hotel. We wake up breakfast.
It depends on if it's a 1 game or if it's a 7 o'clock game. If it's 7 o'clock, you got some time. Coach will try to take as much of your time as he can, so you're not off running around doing no bullshit.
Noon game. You eat breakfast.
You eat breakfast. You sit around, you get some bananas, and then there's time to get taped. So then you go down and get taped, whatever you need taped, ankles, wrists, whatever. And then about 10:30, you head over to the stadium.
Now let's talk about, since you brought up getting taped. Is it a different level of playing with injury in college opposed to professional football? Now
it depends on what injuries. You know what I mean? That's the thing. So if you you can play being hurt, but you can't play being injured. Does that make sense?
Are they
Like some
gonna
people-
are they gonna treat it the same way in college? Like, are they gonna people? This is just for the
a lot of the times, they try to say, well, the organization or the school will try to push you to play hurt. When I think, in my heart of hearts, I've seen that happen. I've seen them push kids to play hurt, but I've been hurt and not told nobody, because when you're in a program, and I was explaining this shit to my son last night. When you're in a program, there, once you sign, those recruiting coordinators are out trying to find your replacement. So it's dog eat dog. So they trying to bring in, if it's a kid better than you that's out on the street, they trying to find him and replace you. So therefore, now you get a couple years into it. Now I'm a junior and I've fought off kids for 2 years. Now I'm like, shit, I got a little, I got a little concussion. I can't see out of one eye. I'm gonna play with one eye closed. Because I'm not gonna come out the game because the guy behind you is just as good as you. Why give him opportunity? Why am I gonna get? And trust me, you love the guys you play with. I'm not gonna give up my shit. Why would
that you didn't work this hard for.
So I'm gonna play hurt.
So when
I'm gonna ignore the concussion.
So the common fan, the fanatic that might not know, they might say, man, shoot him up. He could play. Shoot whatever. The team doctor could give him this. How does this actually work? Is this more the team or is this the player?
That, you know what? It depends on the situation. I've been in the situation. And I had to, against Oklahoma, actually. Against Oklahoma, and I was needed. And coach was like, I need him. So we stayed back, and our trainer, great guy. I'm not even missing his name because he's my guy. So he went up in the thing, and there's a thing called Stump. It was like a water bottle. It said Stump on it. And he put on some rubber gloves, and it was my ankle. He put on some rubber gloves. He hit them long Q-tips. He dipped it in the Stump. He rubbed it on my ankle. I tasted it in my mouth. That's how strong it was.
But your ankle was fine.
It was perfect. And he said, and after the game, he said, you need to be in here at 6 o'clock in the morning. I was like, all right, fine. He's like, no, you're not. He said, you need to be here at 6 o'clock in the morning. And he gave me some crutches. You're going to need these in the morning.
So they got stuff that powerful. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's all because the team.
And I needed the crutches.
And the team needs you, or it's either the team needs you or you really fear that, man, I'm about to lose my spot.
Yeah.
And to a kid's mind, my spot could be my opportunity to get everything to the NFL.
Right. Definitely that. Whether it's true or not.
So is this something that the kid, in your case, this is the time the coach said he needs you.
Right.
Is most of the time that the player decides this on
I think most of the time kids decide on their own.
That this kid better than me.
Or he's equal. Why even give him a shot?
And if they get on the field and do well, my job is done.
You might not ever see the field again.
Wow. Give me, again, I like to bring up the University of Miami.
Right.
Because it's 1U.
Right.
You play Miami. Mm-hmm. How many times?
Twice.
Miami had a lot of professionals.
Yeah.
Give me some of the pros you played against at Miami.
It's a lot.
Was Warren Sapp?
Warren Sapp was there. Ray Lewis was a freshman. I believe he was a freshman.
So you played against one time at the U and one time at Nebraska?
Both times a bowl game. Both were at Miami.
And one was for a championship, right?
No, that was before. That was before me. That was 84.
That's when Schellenberger built the program. When we beat Nebraska.
Yes.
When you guys went for 2.
Went for 2, right.
So when you play the U, you see all these players that, is this at the time that you really realized that these are professionals? Like, did you see it?
Well, the whole thing is professional. You know what I mean? It's just like in Nebraska. So when it's just a level of player. You know what I mean? You could tell they carried themselves like pro. They was already in the league. You know what I mean? I went to a party with Uncle Luke, man, and these cats, man, they was around there. Yeah, man, they got on dookie ropes. Luke handing out $1,000 wads and just I was like, what the?
You hit after you. We need Luke back in the program.
You need Luke back.
We need Luke back. We won when we had Luke. It's 1U.
Right. Yeah.
So I know that was experience.
Yeah.
Playing.
Yeah. I mean, the issue we had with playing the U is that we played in the Big 8, which is a lot of downhill running. And our linebackers were old school linebackers, 6'4", 250, run downhill, hit you in the mouth. But the issue is this: Miami got them little ass running backs
that can cut,
that are running and dance down the field, and it's a complete mismatch. And so Nebraska didn't beat Miami until Coach McBride started recruiting safeties and playing them at linebacker. Then that's when Nebraska started winning national championships.
Tell me, so while you were there, you guys finished in the top 10 every year.
Mm-hmm.
A finish outside of the top 10 just wasn't acceptable.
No.
So let's talk about your Nebraska now. Let's talk about now, why did they move from the Big 8 to the Big 10, first of all?
Well, the Big 8 turned into the Big 12. So the Big 8 turned into the Big 12 because we saved Texas, all those teams from that Southwest Conference. Then they came over. That may turn the Big 8 to the Big 12. And then
did you like that move?
Nah.
You thought it should have stayed the Big 8?
Yeah. But then they kind of took over. And that ended up being the situation. So now you got all the higher ups in the Big 12 from Texas, and Texas getting all the calls, and everything Texas says is correct. So Coach Osborne was like, well, we saved him somehow. We might as well leave. I get it. It makes sense for the reason he did it, going to the Big 10.
He's the AD now, right?
He was the AD. No, now Trevor Alberts is the AD.
Okay.
Kid I played with. But that move from the Big 12 to the Big 10 ruined recruiting, because now those kids from Texas. So we had a big number of kids from Texas. Why? Because we go down there and play. Because
right.
We played Oklahoma. We played Oklahoma State. So that means your family can come see you play. So now in the Big 10, now you got all these kids. None of those kids want to play for Nebraska anymore, because now they don't even play close to your home anymore. Now they play all the way, New York City.
And your family can't see you.
Right. So that ends up hurting recruitment on that. And then just for some reason, we just haven't been getting, we haven't been recruiting the way the alumni believe they should recruit. So it's been a big number of legacy kids that are going to other schools.
Right.
And they shouldn't, you know what I mean? Like Nebraska should have offered my youngest boy. Clester Johnson's kid is a starting wide receiver at Iowa. He shouldn't be at Iowa. He should be in Nebraska. Will Thomas, his son's going to Texas A&M. Keith McCann, his son is down in Texas. He's not being recruited by Nebraska. It's just, and these are ball players with
legacies.
With legacy. So, I mean.
So is this the choice of their sons or the choice of the fathers, you think?
No. It's they're not even getting the look from the school, which has been a big problem.
So do you think the current coach is Scott Frost, right?
Right.
Do you think Frost is the answer? Do you think that you need is Scott Frost a Nebraska guy? Mm-hmm. What's his that he played at Nebraska, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think that he can get the job done? Would you like to avoid that question?
I want to avoid that question.
You want to?
That's
I understand.
The issue is this: it's not getting done. That's the meeting. It's not getting done, and something's got to be fixed to get it done. what it is. So he got his contract restructured so that if he gets fired, they don't have to pay that $20 million buyout. But then he fires all of his offensive staff. You know what I mean? And those are the guys he brought with him from Florida.
Right.
Is that, I mean, I really wouldn't want to coach with a guy that just fired all his boys and saved himself.
Right.
I mean, you know, you knew going in, you know, when you move your family, that's one thing that college coaching is strange, because you could be coaching in Nebraska one day and be coaching in Boise, Idaho next week.
Wow.
And you got to move your whole family. And your daughter is about to go to prom. And you got another kid that's got a recital. And you're like, oh, shit, what am I supposed to do?
That quick.
That quick.
Winning is... Let's talk about the boosters. How do...
We're not going to talk about boosters.
We're not going to talk about boosters.
No, because I love boosters.
What about... Let's talk about Big Ten. Nebraska right now is in the Big Ten West. Mm-hmm. So you got... Al was playing Michigan for the Big Ten championship. Right. You got Wisconsin. You got Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Do you think that now Michigan State, Ohio State on the other side, do you think that at least Nebraska should be at the top of that? Or do you think those, like, what is making Iowa, Minnesota? Because traditionally, Nebraska is in my opinion, is a much better powerhouse.
You have to get the kids in. You got to get the dogs in to play. You know what I mean? If you're a chef and I give you a bunch of Spam,
right?
You eating Spam. You eating Spam. You can doctor it up, put onions on it. It's still Spam.
So has he reached the current coaching staff, reached out to current players like the Nate Turner, the great players that played, the great Nebraska legends?
This is an issue that we've talked about lately. As like yesterday, I was talking with some guys about that. I mean, if I'm a coach if I'm a Nebraska coach, I mean, you got guys all over the country, man.
That's the first thing.
I'm like, Nate, check this out. Who in Illinois, man?
That's common sense, right?
Yo, Keithan in Texas. Hey, Keithan, who's down there? We got some kids you think can play here? You got people in California. Hey, it's some kids and people in Florida, people in Louisiana. That's when I went to school. I went to school with kids from all over the country because Coach Osborne reached out from California to Florida.
And a guy like yourself, for the some of the people you're mentioning, why not get them involved in the program? Would give them jobs. Why not? Because they're a form of grace. So who better to
take care of home than home?
Or a kid's gonna understand, man, this is Nate Turner. This is Turner Gill.
Right. And why would I sign on to a kid that's gonna hurt us? But that's not the way it goes. It goes the way it goes, and we suck right now.
So Nate's here as a Nebraska fan, as a Michigan fan, you keep doing that in Nebraska, and you're gonna lose, and you're gonna need another coach. So what you should be doing, the man is telling you, is to reach out to the former players, get some of them on the staff, because he really don't want to go in.
And the thing is, like, you don't even have to be on the staff. I do it for free. Just because, here in Illinois, I know who the players are. I know who the kids are that can play. I know the kids that can function on that level. Just all it is a couple phone calls, man. It's not much. You know what I'm saying? And then we need Nebraska guys to make Nebraska decisions.
Nebraska, reach out to the alumni. Nate Turner just gave you the invitation. He says, I'm not a Nebraska fan, right, but it's pretty much common sense. Yes, he says he's in touch with former players all across the country. So Nebraska's administration, your AD, your president, the coach.
Trev Albert's known.
That's why they brought Trev. That's who played on the Colts.
Right.
Got it.
Trev Albert's known. So things will be changing. I'm pretty much positive things will be changing.
Let's talk about your professional career. Mm-hmm. The Buffalo Bills, 1992 to 1995. Mm-hmm. I know 2 Super Bowl appearances, 2 AFC championships because you played my Dallas Cowboys.
Right, right.
Before we talk about the Super Bowl itself, talk about you were drafted in the 6th round. At the time, it was 12 rounds. So explain to me how the draft is different today opposed to when you were drafted.
There was a lot more kids drafted, so it means a lot more now. As far as, so if you like, my pick now would be at the end of the draft. Well, my pick at that point in time was, middle of the draft. So that's the only real difference. I think that with media and the fanfare and everybody, kissing everybody's ass, that's
What do you mean by that?
I just mean by, you get kids like, the NFL is made up of 5th and 6th round people.
Okay.
If you look up and down the roster,
That's
9 times out of 10, you got your superstars. And you got your 1st round picks. I get it. But most of the team is made up 3rd through 6th round.
so
That's the meat. Those are the foot soldiers. Those guys make up the NFL. So a lot of times that 1st round bust shit is real. You know what I mean? Because you don't know. You taking a chance on a talent and not knowing everything that goes into it. Because you there's no way of you knowing everything that goes into it. But a guy that has to scrap and fight, it's a scrapper fighter guy. So you can definitely go to war with that. But someone who's been kind of babied along and catered to because he, you know what I mean?
So what about, you give me a description of the combine, the draft combine. How does that work? For we watch it on TV, but from the player's perspective.
It's you hear the stories about slavery. I think it's about the closest thing.
Like slavery.
Because they at one point in time they walk you across the stage and they have they measure your hand, your inseam, your arm length, your neck width, all that shit. They do that shit in front of everybody, and you with shirt, you in t-shirt and shorts with your t-shirt off, and you walk across the stage. I remember looking at Al Davis that's Al Davis.
And all the GMs, the coaches, are the owners there too, or is it mainly?
No, it's mostly GMs and coaches.
So did Chris sort of give, because Chris went to the league before you, right? Mm-hmm. So did he sort of give you hints of how the combine would be?
No.
So you would just
solo dolo. But that's just the way life works, man. You tight with some people, you're not tight with some people. If we'd been tighter, maybe I'd have went to Michigan. But we weren't, so I didn't, This is life. So no, it wasn't really a lot of conversation.
So when you get to combine, when you arrive, they give you a day to rest as soon as you get there.
Man, you go, the combine is a fury of interviews, a fury of testing procedures, because every team has got some different testing procedure, some different IQ tests, some different way to measure your mentality. You got to take the Wonderlic exam. Then you got meetings, and Denver Broncos want to talk. You got to meet with Denver Broncos at 2:00. Then you got to go over here and do this shit at 2:30. Then you can do that at 4:00. You got to go over. It's 3 days of constant moving around.
So do you have an agent with you, or do you have a reference?
It depends. Yeah, my agent came.
Okay.
He wasn't with me all the time, but just kind of.
So this is who is informing you what's going on.
What's going on, right? And keeping track of my meetings and all that stuff, just to make sure I get to everything, because it's so much.
And just watching it on TV, when you see the combine, I'm just thinking I could think of a defensive back or receiver.
You think about all the running and all the testing. It's just as much
mental.
Yeah.
So just
because the NFL knows. They know who they invest in their money in and who you are. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it.
So describe to the people like the mental, how they're really testing your mental capability, how you think.
It's just a bunch of they do it by like these word association games. It's just all a psychological mind fuck. You know what I mean? Seriously, and you're like, what? This is crazy, man. But in all of that, they realize what they have in you. They really do, because you take take two people for instance. Take Ray Lewis, and you take who's that tight end that killing people from Hernandez, Aaron Hernandez. So remember when Ray Lewis was in a situation, the NFL was like, no, he didn't do it. We got his back.
Right.
And they said when Aaron Hernandez did, like, oh, they got the jersey buyback, and you could trade in your jersey. Remember
they
that?
knew because they knew the history.
They knew exactly what he was.
They invest too much money.
They knew exactly what he was. He capable of doing that. So they was like, well, that's it. Let's walk away.
Let's talk about the bias of some of the quarterbacks. Is the IQ test called the Wonderlic? So a lot of the quarterback, particularly the black quarterbacks, have complained that they feel like the test is racially biased.
Well, all standardized testing is racially biased.
So even at
the
that,
the ACT, SAT, Wonderlic, it's all the same thing.
So did you, like at the combine, did you guys talk amongst the black players to say?
Ain't nobody talking to nobody. You down there trying to get a job, man. Ain't nobody talking.
You
man.
Just do. It's like, time to go ahead next.
What you need me to do? Right. What you need me? Where I need to be?
Wow.
It's not a fraternity until afterwards.
Got it. Man, I'm thinking when like a receiver or a DB, they run a 40-yard dash and they was like expected to run like say a 4.35 and they run a 4.5. That's like your stock. You potentially not. That's why I guess they practice so hard to just make sure they make the times. And
it's a big part of it. Measurables are a big part of it. But then
describe to the people like in depth what measurables mean.
Just height, weight, speed, depending on position. Your height, your arm length, your fit, your quickness in small spaces. It all, it's important until it isn't important. Because then you get down in the draft, and you get those guys that fall into the guys that fall into the 5th and 6th rounds because of work, of whatever. I failed because of production, and because because I wasn't touching the ball, I was blocking all the time. So then you got some guys that fall because he should have ran a 4, whatever,
right?
But then he didn't. Then you fall down. But then you got guys down here, like, so it could be a guy that runs a 4.3, and then there's a guy that runs a 4.5 who's better than the guy that runs a 4.3. I mean, Jerry Rice ran a 4.6.
Man. And we saw what he did.
Right. So you see him, and he's never been caught from behind.
He run with them pads.
Right. So
that's what we're going to talk about when we talk part 2 about actually playing with pads, how things are different, how to teach kids the correct way to play football. We're going to talk about that in part 2. What about, I hear Marv Levy, the players love him. You played for Levy, everybody from Thurman Thomas, Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, all of they. What was it about Mark? How was your?
First of all, he's a Chicago guy. He graduated from South Shore.
Wow, South Shore High School.
Mm-hmm. We used to talk about it all the time. So that was, that area was a big Jewish area.
Okay.
Marv was just awesome, man. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't even know. It's unexplainable. He is just awesome. He's a player's coach.
So you coming in there, you felt comfortable.
Oh yeah, and I came in. It was a bunch of old guys there. You know what I'm saying? So it was so I was taught how to play the NFL by veterans, all pro veterans. You know what I mean?
Give us some of the names. We know Bruce Smith,
Thurman, Darryl Talley, Steve Tasker, Andre Reed, James Lofton,
but man,
Howard Ballard, Kent Hall.
So you come in as a rookie.
Right.
Well, we might not want to talk about that. Do you want to discuss rookie hazing?
Yeah, I can get hazed.
So that they determine what rookie.
It depends on the team. It depends on the people. It's just like in a fraternity. Like, so some fraternities are easy to get through. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, some people you might get your ass beaten, and some people don't do that. So it's the same thing. You know what I mean? I did at Buffalo. They'd been to 2 Super Bowls. Everything was cool. My job was to go in there and find a place amongst them, because every place is already. They just went to Super Bowl. How much they missing?
So is it the same thing? Mount Carmel culture, Nebraska culture, Buffalo culture.
It's all culture. And then when I went to Carolina, lack of culture. And I couldn't wait to retire. You know what I mean? It's like, this is like high school.
It's actually, wouldn't you say the Bears and the Lions are like that? But you're not in the locker room, so you. But
you don't have to be in the locker room to see that.
I told you, Bear fan. You thought I was hallucinating.
You don't have to be in the locker room to see that. But they got a whole lot more problems than playing. It's a culture issue going on. It's a culture issue going on, and I think that really, I mean, it's the Bears, man. It's bad. It's bad. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. And then they got my man, Justin Fields is standing in the middle. He's standing in the middle. She's like, what am I supposed to do, man? He's like, Sally, you need to duck, because what you need to do with it until they get to offensive line. You're gonna be having problems. You know, and a lot of people don't understand. I was just talking about this the other night. Mr. Trubisky and Justin Fields the same dude. They the same exact player.
Because so Mitch what?
No, he's the same exact player. The coaching staff was trying to force Justin Fields to be this drop back pocket passer. They did the same thing to Mitch Trubisky. But Mitch Trubisky, if you remember, even though he only played 12 games in college, he was a runaround guy. He was a runaround guy, just like Justin Fields was in college. So now they're trying to take these dudes and turn them into something they're not. That's a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for disaster. And that's why what's name needs to be fired.
Give me, before we talk about the Super Bowls, let's discuss some of your balls. I remember one game, let's discuss the comeback against Houston. That was the Houston when you guys came back in the playoffs. Describe the feeling, actually being on the field, seeing you being down, thinking you're going to be eliminated. At what point did you guys like, man, we could win this or this? You are realistically.
You know this is the issue. The issue is this. Frank Reich did this shit before. It's not like he's done that before. He did it in college. When he was in Maryland.
At Maryland.
He did the exact same thing in college. So if anybody to be in there at that point in time, that's what he wanted. I mean, granted, Jim Kelly also, but check this out. Frankie Wright was all right.
Yeah.
And then Andre played his ass off. BB played his ass off.
So when you on the sideline, give us what's actually, first of all, I know you in shock because you the game was in Buffalo.
Right.
I'm watching this and I literally, man, Buffalo was out of here. And then next thing you know, I come back to the TV. I'm like,
well, there's a reason why there's a clock. Because the game, if it ain't over, it ain't over.
Is that the game when Buddy wanted to fight the coach? Because remember,
I remember that happening.
Buddy was the defensive, because that's when Houston was running the run and shoot.
Right.
And Buddy used to, I think it was Gilbride, and he used to get mad at him.
I just know there's some guys on Houston that quit. And all it takes is one guy to quit. And especially if it's one of the top guys. And then everybody just kind of falls in place.
So professionals actually quit.
Yeah, it happens. You see it all the time.
You just as a you're a professional. Right. What makes a professional quit that's getting paid? Are they demoralized?
Sometimes you know what? It's like Napoleon, right? So Napoleon, his whole thing was if a man is down and you're at war, you cut his throat. You don't leave him laying there bleeding because he might get up and kick your ass. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, they should have cut our throat and they didn't. That's what happened. So you start walking around with your chest out like, yeah, we kicking the ass. Then all of a sudden, here come them Bills, and then all of a sudden that snowball is too big and it's rolling downhill. You know.
Was that the AFC Championship of the game? That was divisional, right?
That was the wild card game.
And then from there, you all just
we were playing like shit, really. That was the wild card game, I believe.
Describe the feeling when you win your first AFC Championship and you go to the Super Bowl. Man, how is the locker room after you accomplish as a team? You know that you going to the Super Bowl.
Well, see, and that's where I was spoiled because they had been to two, so they was like, whatever. This is the same shit as last year. So it really I didn't really get the full feeling of it because everybody was like nonchalant, like, yeah, all right, come on, let's go. And then the last one, they was like, we're back. It was like us against the world because nobody wanted us to go back. Like, we don't want them to go back again. And then all of our focus was about getting to the game and not winning the game. That ended up being the situation that last year.
So when you going to the Super Bowl, give like the hectic, like what's around you. Family wants tickets because I hear that it's real hectic for a player. So like how do they allocate the tickets? Is it?
Well, for a rookie, it's awesome because this is a story that I'm gonna tell. This is exclusive because I don't tell this story to a lot of people.
At W Sports getting an exclusive from Nate Turner.
So you get, and so now these guys have been to 2 Super Bowls already. I'm a rookie. So I had my big brother. He told me, he said, hey man, look, buy all your tickets. $175 a piece. You get 33 tickets. Buy them all. So I went up there, wrote a check, got all tickets. He said, take out what you need for your family. Took out what I needed. He said, you got the rest of the tickets. He said, come with me. We went downstairs and there was 15 limos. 15 limos. So dude puts his hand out the window. Me and my man hop in the limo. 2 Italian dudes, slick back hair. One dude sitting on one side, the other dude sitting on another side with a briefcase, a handcuff to the briefcase. We said, what's going on? We said, my man wants to sell his tickets. He said, okay, where they at? I give him one of the tickets. I give him all the tickets. He looks at the schematic of the stadium, you know, in LA. He looks and he goes, I give $1,500 a piece, $1,800 a piece. I just paid $175 a piece. I give $1,800 a piece. I'm like, shit. So now I got, my pockets got the mumps. I got cash, like just all, man, I had 30 tickets. Money all over the place. So then I asked my man, I said, man, what do I do with this money? He goes, whatever you want. So needless to say.
So how did you put all the cash? Did you have family to hold the cash? What did you do with that much cash?
Keep it like Bruce Lee. It's best on my person. It's best to keep it on my person. I'm not gonna keep it though. They didn't even have safes and hotel rooms and shit back then.
They didn't have safes.
I had shit stuffed in shoes. But I tell you what, man.
I know you. So I know you was worried when they came. The housekeeping came.
Nah, not really. You know what? You don't even think about it because it's just that. I mean, for a kid, here I am, 22 years old, playing in the Super Bowl. I just got a bonus for no reason. That's a cash bonus for no reason. I'm like, man, we had a good time. But the sad part about that, and I know a lot of my Buffalo Bills brothers probably don't want me to say this, but that's when it was 2 weeks. Now the Super Bowl is 1 week.
You had 2 weeks.
So then Coach Marv was like, we're not gonna have curfew for the first week.
Oh,
Lord have mercy. Why they do that?
Y'all was in LA?
Why they do that?
So how did
people were showing up to practice in suits and shit from the night before? So limo pull up, you get up, kind of shit. That's crazy, man.
Because you figure we'll be all right the first week, and the next week we just focus in.
Yeah.
So tell us about the actual. We go to Super Bowl parties. A lot of the norm.
Yeah, I can't.
I'm gonna call us the regular fans.
I can't talk about none of that shit.
Just give us a glimpse of the Super Bowl
I
party.
can't discuss none of it. And you know why. So there it
You
is.
plead the. I understand.
You can't even do that, man, because if I told you, it would sound like I was lying. So imagine that. Whatever you could think of, yeah.
Hey.
Whatever you could think, yeah, that too.
So you leave Buffalo, you go to Carolina, and you mentioned it.
Well, I had knee was little. I already had one surgery. Ended up going to Carolina. Just and Carolina was like a college team, man.
What do you mean?
It was just the whole there is no culture. It was the first year. It was the first year.
Oh, this did when they was expansion.
Yes.
So who was the coach?
Dom Capers. So it went to it was like 2 weeks into the season before I had signed. And I had so the day I signed, that was the day OJ got acquitted.
Wow.
The day, because we was all in the office, I signed the stuff, and OJ not guilty. So then I got number 32. I got number 32 because I love OJ Simpson.
How did that go?
I used to kick with OJ, man. I'm in Buffalo.
Right.
I like OJ. OJ, all right. So a lot of people probably don't like that, but OJ a good dude.
You hung with him, so in your opinion, he's a good dude.
Yeah. Also hung with Rick James from Buffalo.
Rick James.
Rick James? Super freak.
Okay.
Yeah.
He from Buffalo? Wow.
Yeah. Can't tell you that story either. But
you got a lot of stories, though.
I got tons of stories, man. But the thing is, man, it's almost like being in a secret society, kind of, like it's some shit I can tell my son, you know what I mean? He'd be like, damn, that's some crazy shit. And then and I can tell you in another situation.
set.
Right, but this situation it's not for everybody.
So you on Carolina, you been in the winning cultures, Nebraska. Yeah. You been at Buffalo, Super Bowl, one of the best teams in the NFL. So how do you try to take leadership with Carolina? Do you realize that the situation is so bad that this isn't even going to work for me to step up and try to start a culture at least?
The thing is it's already rolling. It's already rolling, and it's rolling you know what I mean? So I'm trying to get in there and get my little roll on, and then I tore my knee. So I really didn't really get an opportunity to showcase my wares, 100% fully, ready to roll. But Carolina was awesome. It was nice. I just, it wasn't Buffalo. This is, you know what I mean?
Let's talk about, it's all.
Because it was a bunch of us that were there. I mean, it was me, Pete Metzelaars, Don Beebe,
a lot of Buffalo guys.
Carlton Bailey. Who else? Yeah, it was because it was Bill Polian. Bill Polian was the GM in Buffalo, and then he was the GM of Carolina.
Okay.
So he brought all of us down.
Polian was a hell of a GM.
Hall of Fame, no doubt.
Man, he drafted. He knew what he was doing.
He put together
and the Colts.
Indianapolis. Yeah.
And the Colts.
Put together Indianapolis.
What about? Let's talk about your relationships with your former high school. You don't have to mention names if you don't want to, but like your high school former teammates, your college former high school people just tuning in. The high school Mount Carmel powerhouse here in Chicago, Nebraska Cornhusker, a legendary football program in the Buffalo Bills and Carolina Panthers and in the NFL. What is your relationship with your current high school, college, or professional NFL teammates?
I keep in touch with a lot of guys on all levels. I mean, your friends are your friends. When you sweat and bleed with a guy, it's different. It's kind of like war. You know what I mean? Just like you got veterans, you got veterans. So high school is one thing. You know what I mean? Guys have everybody's grown. And it's not, nobody's looking at each other weird. And the jealousies have gone away.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And everybody's on the same level playing field for the most part. That's what it is more so than anything. It's more of a level playing field with everybody now.
What do you think about the NFL? Because football is a violent sport, so it's a lot of people with the concussions, the injuries. Do you think the NFL compensates guys in the league, that the former players, enough, or do you think that they can do more?
They can do a lot more. And first of all, it is a violent game, and you love it. You know what I mean? People don't realize that it's a violent ass game, and you love it, and you love that shit, and you love getting hit and hitting people, and that takes a special person to do that. And we get to that on part 2 because everybody not cut out to play this game.
We're going to talk about that part 2. People tuning in. Part 2 is going to discuss Nate's has a plan to build the youth football program up in Chicago, and he also thinks this can work basically with kids in our communities, to do this, to keep the community safe, get them doing things constructive. We're going to talk about that in part 2. When you talk about, so what do you think specifically that the league could do for, because a lot of former players are really disabled.
Right.
Hips, surgeries, knees, concussions. The NFL's making a lot of money. So what do you feel that they could really do to help these players?
Well, I think the thing with the concussions is such a moving target because everybody's different. Some people's heads are softer than others. It's just a fact, like anything else. You know what I mean? Luckily, I don't have a lot, but then there's some guys that will, completely ruin their life. You know what I mean? You see, I've seen it with my friends. You know what I mean? You got guys that with the concussion syndrome, start making bad decisions, feel like everybody's against you, and guys going bankrupt. It's just bad, man. And the NFL needs to do more as far as you know what? Real talk. They could do more, but we kind of signed on for the shit. You know what I mean?
And they don't really care.
Yeah, because it's just like for as simple as me playing with one eye closed, in Nebraska or Buffalo, because I got a dinger, you know what I mean, and my head is ringing a little bit, and I keep one eye closed until I can see out of both eyes.
What about, let's talk about the points you brought up, bankrupt. We've seen the ESPN 30 for 30 broke. What's happening in the leagues, first of all, where these players are in this situation after they made millions of dollars, is my first question. My second question, why don't we have more of our own being agents, financial advisors? Like, why are we depending on other people in other communities handling our money when the majority of these leagues that we put our sweat, our soul, our body on the line, and we're not reaping the benefits? You could probably answer that. Those are my 2 questions.
Well, the Rookie Symposium was supposed to kind of fix that a little bit, which it did. But for the past couple of years, I don't think they've had the Rookie Symposium
Because of COVID.
Hence the Henry Ruggs situation.
Right.
When you got a guy that's you're an Uber ride away from still playing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Let's talk about, people pray for Henry Ruggs, pray for that family, because that's truly a tragic situation. So everybody from the outside, you play in the league. Man, the league got policies. He could have just called the Uber. So basically, from a professional that has what's happening, what can happen to the people out there to avoid that situation ever happening again?
It's just, being intelligent. It's not, the issue is this. For one, I knew once the team was in Vegas, it was going to be a problem at some point in time. It's going to happen. Because you got guys, it's different now. Because when I came into the league, even if you was the first rounder, didn't nobody give a shit. Darren Talley was going to whip your ass, or somebody was going to grab you by the throat if you get out of line.
The players handled it.
Yes, but when I played.
Oh.
So you get these, these mouthy guys, and you got what's the receiver that play for the
Odell Beckham.
No, that ain't right. Ocho Cinco getting mouthy. Check this. That wouldn't happen in Buffalo. It wouldn't have happened. I promise you.
You hear that?
I promise you, it would have got fixed in the locker room. It wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have went. Coach wouldn't have had to fix it. Media wouldn't have got involved. It'd have been a closed door situation, and it'd have been fixed
immediately
on the spot.
So do you think it's age thing that just like?
Well, the problem is these kids make so much money, and so you got a kid that makes all this money. He's on the Raiders. Who does he look up to on the Raiders? Who does he respect enough for someone to be like, hey man, look, slow your ass down. That's not how we do this.
So you can't. Is it the money issue that changed how you guys used to handle things in Buffalo?
That's part of it. That's part of it. But I think that man, some was just common ass sense. You know what I mean? You have to protect what you have, and that's how you protect what you have. You know, this is like my mom. My mom was like, every time you came to Chicago, you was in a limo. Like, you're right. You know why? Because I planned on drinking. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm about to kick it.
So why would I be driving the car and ruin my life, somebody else's, my everything I work for just because I want to drive a car?
Right. I mean, so some of that's upbringing too. It's not just it's not the team's problem. Some of it's upbringing, man. You have to be intelligent enough or have somebody that's old enough and understand, wise enough to school you on some real shit. You know what I mean?
So
because this kid is an Uber ride, a taxi ride away from still being in the NFL, and he'd still have his money. And now the money he lost because they cut him is millions of dollars, and say the $4 or $5 million he has, he's gonna lose in the civil suit. That family's gonna sue him. He's gonna lose that in the civil suit. He's gonna have nothing when this is over.
So since we bring up contracts, what is the difference between NFL contract and NBA or Major League Baseball contract is guaranteed? It is guaranteed. Explain to the people in the NFL, is your signing bonus guaranteed?
Your signing bonus is guaranteed, but your season salary is not. So everything is dependent upon your roster bonus, your roster status. So once you make the roster, then that kicks your money for the season in. So if you don't if you get cut, all that money, that roster money is gone.
Okay. So in a Henry Ruggs scenario, his guaranteed money they can't mess with.
No, they can't. His signing bonus, no.
Okay. But everything else.
But so if you were gonna get $8 million over 16 games, and they cut him after the second game, that's the only piece he gets. So that $8 million is whatever you divide that by and come up with that number. That's that number. That's what he gets.
So when you guys sign these contracts, do you actually know do you know what you're gonna get? Is this like you said when you went to Nebraska, a lot of the stuff you learning for yourself.
Right.
So do you actually realize?
Well, it's part of, as long as you have an agent that's halfway intelligent, and trust me, some guys don't have agents that are halfway intelligent. But since the Rookie Symposium started, that's kind of changed things. But you need an agent before you get to the Rookie Symposium. You know
so why would you say guys don't have agents that's intelligent?
Because it's a lot of guys that are in bad situations. I played with a couple guys that are in some bad situations. Power of attorney, all this stuff. One signature checks, and it's not your signature. I've played with guys that lost a lot of money.
And is this because obviously financial literacy, right. But is it, so what do you think we could do in our communities because we had too many people that's going to the NFL, going to the National Basketball Association to be losing money that they've spent years of, because these have, like you say, your sweat, tears.
It's going to be a person by person basis, man, as far as literacy on all that shit. Because if my little boy gets a chance to do it, he's going to be straight because we already know what the pitfalls are.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? The issue is that a lot of times these kids end up being lotto tickets instead of somebody that, you know what I mean? You get a kid, the next thing you know, He comes from nothing, and then bam! Next thing you know, he's the #1 shooting guard in the country.
And then all the
And then
parents
it's
and the
too late.
family
And
need
then
money.
and I tell you, the worst thing I've ever heard, and I continue to hear over and over again, is my baby gonna buy me a house. My baby going to the NFL. That's the worst thing on earth.
Why do you say that?
Because you putting these kids and giving these kids these false ass hopes. The numbers tell the truth. The odds of a 15-year-old kid graduating from Yale, Harvard is way better than playing in the NFL. And that money lasts for your whole life.
So with the symposium, have former players like yourself that have financial literacy had thought about maybe we need to form something for kids in our community where you could sit down with them like, man, I've been in the league. Don't do this. Don't do that. You guys really haven't discussed that.
It really hasn't been discussed.
Because
it hasn't been discussed because it's too, everybody, like I said before, it's point something percent of America, of the world, is gonna play in the NFL.
No, I mean the kids that
Just
have already been drafted. So like,
it should be something put into place for
well, our
the
community, besides the rookie symposium,
right.
maybe the former NFL kids and the black community, maybe
right.
black players get together because you've already lived it. You know what I'm saying? Like you teach your sons, man, don't do this. What? Because they might, in my opinion, they might understand it from somebody that came up from the inner city of Chicago, that came up from Detroit, came up from Philly, Oakland, etc.
Right. The catch-22 to this whole thing is this: to play in the NFL or to play major college football, you have to be a cutthroat, kick-ass, rock and roll dude. Period. So you have to believe when you walk into the room, you're the baddest motherfucker in the room. You're the most athletic motherfucker in the room. You have to trick yourself into believing that all the time. So, and that's the thing. Everybody can't turn that shit on and turn it off.
That's mad.
Some people can. Like I feel like I'm one person that can. I was never fucking too ego driven, but still I had the ability to turn that shit on and really, let people have it on the field.
Now you bring the point up, turning it on.
Right.
Do you think that's why certain athletes, I'm not defending domestic violence because I'm totally against it. I'm totally against it. But do you think that certain professional players are just so wired that they can't turn it off?
It happens. It happens. But every situation is different, man. Every situation is different. You got people that, if a man punches a woman, it's completely wrong.
Exactly.
100% wrong. Now, if she says some things to him that she really shouldn't be saying, or just say that, for instance, say someone been abused. Say you've been abused. You've been abused, right?
Right.
And then your girl say, you know what? That's why that's why he did that. That's what's gonna happen. Because she's close and she knows information that can push buttons, and that happens a lot. And a lot of buttons getting pushed happens a lot.
So as an athlete, you've already wired to.
Right.
It's like really like you say, you got to take yourself to another body, and sometimes you can't shut it off.
Exactly. That's why you have to be smart enough because everybody's been in arguments. You know what I mean?
So would you consider, like I was in people that's been in the military that you've been trained to kill, and then you put it's something triggers.
It's the same thing, man. It's the same exact thing. It is damn what they call that shit? Post traumatic. Right. It's the same thing. I mean, football is war, man. My job is to knock your face off. Your job is to knock my face off. And you do that shit for years. You do it for years, man, from when you was in high school. You do it for years, so that becomes a habit. And then if you can't control it, what happens? Next thing you know, now all of a sudden you're not playing football no more. Guess what? Because now it's your kids and it's your wife They taking the brunt of that.
Great insight. Look, before we go to part 2, explain when you realize that now your life is changing because you're out of the league. Explain to the people like the transition. Like, man, as far as now I'm not making the same money, I'm not to say, because I know that's got to be a hell of a high to be on the football field, knowing you going to, how does your life change financially, family-wise, mentally?
Right.
This is the last question, people, before we go to part 2.
So when you when it's over, you know it's over. And it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow. So if you're not grounded in any way and don't realize, and it's going to be difficult anyway. But if you aren't grounded, it's going to be real difficult. Hence, a bunch of issues, dudes turning to drugs. You know what I mean? Because it's no high higher than scoring a touchdown. There's no higher than, making a big hit and feeling the crowd. You don't even hear it, you feel it. You know what I'm saying? You feel it. And so a lot of people chase that, man. Cocaine, fucking people chase that, man. Chasing the dragon. You'll never catch it because there's no other way to replicate that feeling.
So what you're saying that it's in a form of addiction, like drugs, alcohol, gambling, women.
It's 100% addiction. It's just not as many, you don't hear about it because people out of the limelight, man. People out of the limelight, you see people go through some shit, man. We, as a NFL legends community, you hear some horror stories, man, with guys that just can't cope, and can't function, because they not who they were. But then they don't realize they are who they always were, which is strange.
Now the owner's there for you normally, or once you're out the league, you just like on to the next.
Yeah,
it depends on the individual.
It depends on the individual, man, and your connection. Sometimes you just, like I had a bad taste in my mouth about Buffalo because I ended up in Carolina. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, you'd be like, all right, whatever. And then cooler heads prevail. Then you realize what it all was, But it's tough, man. It's tough to change gears, man, when you're going 1,000 miles an hour. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to change gears. But, I mean, I was lucky. I mean, my father was an electrician. I mean,
you were grounded.
Right. I got, criminal justice. I was going to mess around with Cook County and become a probation officer. And then I was supposed to go get fitted for my vest. And then I realized I'm not wearing a vest. You know what I'm saying? I can't, and trust me, I love all the firemen. I love all the policemen. I love the military because you all do some stuff that I can't do. I can't do it.
Makes sense.
I can't, when I go home, when I go to work, I want to be able, it's on me to come home. When you're
putting your life on.
When you're a policeman, a fireman, a military, every time you go to work, it's not up to you. It's not, something can happen and you're not going home.
That's, man.
And it puts you in a bad number. You know what I mean? The numbers are different, man. You know what I mean? I'd rather be in that 1%, get killed at work than 60%. So I went ahead and took the electrician's exam and haven't looked back. Been an electrician.
But that was from your father's upbringing, because that's what we're going to talk about in part 2, the importance of being in your kid's life.
Right.
Because he was able to go back to what his father did, being an electrician.
100%.
Now, one more question. I know that's supposed to be the last. We forgot to talk about the current stats, the Bills right now. Do you think the Bills can win the Super Bowl?
I hope and pray that they could, but for some reason, something's not clicking right now for the past couple of weeks. I don't know whether they reading their press clippings and feeling themselves. What happens?
But you think the culture's in place with great Josh Allen?
The culture's in place.
Great young coach.
Everything's in place. They just have to follow through. They need some Marv Levy speeches.
Oh, he gave great speeches?
Yeah.
Motivational?
Yeah. Definitely.
Thank you, Nate Turner. People, I wanted to we're in Chicago. Chicago is known as a basketball town, so we're going to have great legends from former players, current players, coaches, But it was very important for me to have Nate as our first guest because I want to emphasize also football. So stay tuned for part 2 because Nate has the plan. We're going to discuss what we can do to build this youth football up in Chicago, stop some of this violence by getting these kids off the street and doing something productive. And Nate told you, football is a violent sport, so let's get this energy into doing things constructively, teaching kids how to play as a team and work on the football field. So we will be right back in about 10 minutes for part 2. Thanks for tuning in. Edit W Sports.